as far as that's concerned. Let's have a little bit of levity with this next segment, because I think we'll take a little more time on this one because
Yeah. One last thing I do want to say on Travis Scott before we move on. He is paying for the people's medical bills. That has been confirmed by CNN, so at least we know that he's taking some responsibility.
and I think also funeral costs and therapy bills as well.
Yes, he is doing all of that. It has been confirmed by CNN, so that is good. But moving on to our next segment that should bring us a bit of levity.
So this is a lot of fun because we have our possum breeder in the Senate, Ted Cruz,
Oh
is
god.
owning himself on Twitter, and it's a lot of fun because this happens all the time, and I will not let go of an opportunity to dunk on Ted Cruz.
Yes, Ted Cruz is, of course, in a heated battle with his most fierce rival, Big Bird.
Yes. So, for context, Big Bird let out a tweet for uh, for parents to show to their kids, like, hey, Big Bird is getting his COVID-19 vaccine, and now that COVID is now accessible to kids above the age of
COVID,
5,
COVID vaccines.
vaccine, COVID vaccines are accessible for the kids above the age of 5, that it should be good for role models to show that they are able to take this and should not be afraid. And then also a CNN follow-up interview with people or with characters such as Big Bird, Rosita, and characters like that. Also partook with I believe it was Sanjay Gupta,
I think so.
and they did that. And in response, Ted Cruz, in his brilliant train of thought, goes on Twitter and says, "Wow, propaganda aimed for 5-year-olds," and oh, the internet has been roasting him like crazy.
Yeah. For one, this isn't new. Big Bird has been advertising vaccines since what?
1972.
Yeah, he's been advertising vaccines since the 70s, people. This ain't new for Big Bird. This ain't his first rodeo with the vaccines. Second of all, Ted Cruz is an idiot.
Yeah.
So, of course, going after Big Bird resulted in the following. Ratio plus L plus you fell off, you suck.
Oh yeah, like because there have been several parody accounts that have come from this. Like a parody Big Bird account has come out and it's like, well, I can definitely tell you how long it takes to fly from Texas to Cancun.
Or he said, well, Ted Cruz can't give you much advice on vaccines, but he can give you advice on how to get to Cancun. And then there was a Cookie Monster one that absolutely destroyed him. And even Seth MacFarlane got on the ribbing saying that he's dumber than every single puppet in Sesame Street. Listen, when you're getting called dumber than Fozzie Bear, God, Ernie, Bert, the Count, goddamn. Basically called him the whole ass circus, which he is. He's a fucking carnival roadshow.
Because I mean, come on, propaganda. You're calling
It's
it
a health PSA.
like the whole point of it is for parents to make their kids less afraid of taking the vaccine. This isn't some deep state propaganda tool that is supposed to indoctrinate our youth. Like, come on.
Yeah. But let's be honest here. Ted is only doing this because it's a virtue signal to his base. He doesn't actually care about Big Bird. He's just like, this'll score me some points with the base. Give me them Trumpies over here and let them vote me back.
I really hope that O'Rourke does something to get him out of there.
Boy, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Ted Cruz has a stranglehold over Texas. That man ain't going anytime soon unless he dies or he retires.
Ugh.
So, unfortunately, he's not going anytime soon. But it is fun to dunk on him while he's still in office.
But I do want to move from the Senate.
Wait. Before we do this, I have to give you the obligatory reminder that Ted Cruz retweeted incest porn on his Twitter. Never forget.
We never will. But now I want to move from the Senate to the House.
Okay. Now, when I first saw this, I contemplated everything in life. I am pretty sure about 55% of my brain cells died after watching what I saw.
No. Let's keep things a little light. Let's save that one for later. I still want to have a good mood first before we get into this.
Fine.
So let's talk about the other representative because I know where you're going. Let's talk about Josh Hawley. And
Oh, okay. We're talking about him.
let's keep it light for now. Let's not have a light dark light sandwich, please.
Fine. Well, the point still stands. I did lose about 55% of my brain cells listening to Josh Hawley. That's for damn sure.
So his whole thing is he went to what was the whole thing?
It was the National Conservative Conference.
And so he is saying that I forget the exact words, but he said that the main failing of masculinity is liberalism through video games and porn.
Yes, he believes that because of the fact that we have become more aware as a populace about things such as patriarchy, the failings of capitalism, toxic masculinity, the fact that gender roles are rigid and destructive, the fact that gender is a social construct, this and like all these other things. He takes that as a sign that masculinity is under attack. And note, when he says masculinity, please read this as cis, white, male, mainly Anglo-Saxon men.
Because his whole rant was the fact that people are getting, or that group is getting into marriages less, being a father to a family less, and creating less offspring to continue their generations.
Which, that is kind of true. However, the reason being is because of the crushing weight of capitalism.
And also, Republican males are not really great partners in the modern day and age. Let's be fair here. I can think of two good reasons right now.
I mean, yes, but you still have to remember there are Republican women. So, of course, they're going to meet up and, Republican men and Republican women will still get together. But even they aren't having as much kids, and that's because of the crushing weight of capitalism. It is now infinitely harder to buy your own home, pay off your student loans, get a job that can actually pay for your bills, and raise a child at the same time. It is incredibly difficult, even for two people with a dual income. And because of that, it's made it so that the younger generations are less incentivized to actually commit to marriage or commit to family creation because it's expensive.
Honestly, a lot of people in this current generation see kids as a non-necessity and they just won't do it because kids cost $10,000 a year?
Yeah, kids cost a lot of money. And on top of that fact that kids cost a lot of money, jobs, especially now in a COVID environment, not post-COVID, we're still in it. In a COVID environment, jobs are not good. Working conditions are not good as well. It's just not a good environment that's conducive for people to really settle down and have kids. But immigrant families do actually have a higher rate of having kids, which is good because immigrants usually help offset population drops of native populations to nations. So it's not all doom and gloom like Josh Hawley says, but then again, Josh Hawley is most likely a racist, so him seeing more brown and black children being born probably is just as, if not worse, than the fact that white children are not being born.
And it's honestly, that just goes through their hypocrisy. It makes it quite evident that they don't care about that kind of stuff. They just care about keeping the stereotypical American family structure intact.
Yeah. And so Josh Hawley then extrapolated all these things to mean that because of our greater awareness of gender inequality and all those things that I said earlier, that men are now hunkering down and consuming more pornography and more video games. And because they are now consuming those things more, that is the reason why there is less families, like less people getting married, less people having kids, less people working, so on and so forth.
Which doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, let's be honest here. Like, you can say that about any activity. It's just conservatives hate when their kids play video games.
Yeah. And at this point, I'm pretty sure this is just a self-report on his part.
Because let's just be honest here. Anyone complaining about society's overindulgence in pornography indulges in a lot of pornography.
Yeah, this man most definitely jerks it to Bang Gross 24/7. Like, yeah.
And mind you, this is a guy who wants to follow in Trump's footsteps, like desperately. He was one of the first people to come out against the impeachment.
Yeah.
Or the second impeachment, I should say.
Yeah, and he was notable for giving a fist bump to, like a fist pound in the air towards the January 6th protesters before they turned from protesters to insurrectionists.
Yes.
So
this is a guy who sees a very successful future in his career as a politician. And, I mean, it's kind of a ritual that you have to dunk on yourself to be a Republican, but... And then he went on to Axios and further dug his own grave.
Yeah, and this general idea that the modern day is full of degeneracy and that's weakening the foundations of our civilization is bullshit. This has been parroted by mainly authoritarian and fascist-aligned people for centuries. It's not true. The true things that decay a society is when the populace is truly not being taken care of, meaning that the systems have broken down. Because if you don't have a populace that actually can help contribute to the system cannot function anymore. That is what truly will lead to a decline. So Josh Hawley wants to virtue signal about the decline in family and the decline in birth rates and all that different stuff. And for me personally, I do think it's a problem. However, I see it as a different problem than he does. I don't see it as a problem stemming from this moral degradation caused by the liberal Marxist feminists and their gender agendas. I see this as a failing of our government and a failing of the capitalist structure that we have in place that perpetrates inequality and does not incentivize people to build families in.
But at the end of the day, Republicans will not fix the system because they are incentivized not to, because at the end of the day, they are making more money as a politician, not helping greater people.
Yes, and to be perfectly honest with you, Josh Hawley does not actually care if you have kids. Josh Hawley does not care if you have a job. Josh Hawley does not care if you get married. This is all a dog whistle and a virtue signal to signal, the great replacement and all this other esoteric neo-fascist bullshit.
Yeah.
And really, I hate when Republicans talk about this because there is a little kernel of truth about it being an issue, but they run with it to the exact opposite extreme of what causes the problem, that it really disincentivizes people, specifically people on the left, from even approaching the fact that this is an issue. Like, the fact that people aren't getting married as much and not having kids as much, and overall are not happy, is a real problem in this country.
But it's not because of the liberal, I'm trying to continue this joke here, I'm sorry. The idea that there's liberalism in video games and pornography.
Or the idea that the liberalism of the world pushes you to video games and pornography.
But it's the fact that people are just not interacting as they used to before, and that is subject to the suburbanization that we have been put under because of capitalism.
Exactly. The fact that the suburbs have become so prolific has meant that transportation requires automobiles. And so transporting in your own car gives you less of social interactions compared to walking down the street in the city or taking the city bus or the metro or whatever.
And also the fact that people have become awakened to the hypocrisy of the church. People are not meeting in communities anymore either. They're not incentivized to meet in groups of more than 20 people anymore.
Exactly. Like for better or worse, the church was a community center for a lot of people. And it led to a lot of social interactions. And those social interactions did bore relationships, romantic, platonic, friendships, mentorships, whatever.
Exactly. It led to several opportunities, I'm sure, as well.
And so, because of the fact that there's been a huge disillusionment with the church, we don't have a replacement for it. We have online, but online doesn't translate to real life in a lot of ways because you're communicating with people that are usually across the world.
Realistically, people don't get married meeting on forums. I mean, yeah, they meet on Tinder and Bumble, sure, but you get where I'm leading to here.
Yeah.
Most of the interactions you have online won't lead to real relationships.
And also, the fact of the matter is that under capitalism, dating has become expensive. Whether it's through dating apps, which charge you exorbitant fees to help you not get screwed over by their algorithms that intentionally push you down so you feel incentivized to purchase their premium, gold, whatever subscriptions that will then make so the algorithm doesn't screw you over. So then you have a chance of even talking to someone. There's that. There's also the fact that gas is becoming so much more expensive. Food has become expensive. Travel is expensive. Those things add up, especially with the fact that wages have not increased proportional to the standard of living we have. Meaning that socializing becomes expensive. And it's difficult.
By the way, this must be said. Biden didn't flip a switch to double the price of gas. Please stop perpetuating this lie.
Thank you. But it's just people aren't incentivized to meet anymore. And while we did start this off just completely roasting Josh Hawley because he is roastable, he is in my opinion, he's a fascist, just waiting for the full mask to fall off at this point.
Yeah.
But the thing with fascists is that they sometimes do tune into a real issue, but they run towards the worst reasons as to why it's an issue and the worst solutions.
It's because their audiences are stupid.
Or they think you're stupid. Because at the end of the day, they're not right, and the truth is out there. So don't blindly listen to stuff that a politician will just rattle off to you. Try and confirm it for yourselves, especially when it comes from people that have a history of not caring for your well-being, like Josh Hawley.
Well, at least if we're in a doomer mood, we'll have less tonal whiplash for our next and final segment.